Hello, dear ones. Welcome back to another episode of Elemental Whispers podcast. Today, we have for you another installment of Pearls of Enchantment, which is the feature segment that I'm doing in co-creative partnership with my dear friend and flower sister, Alexandria Sciarappa. We generally plan on sharing one of these Pearls of Enchantment a month, but as you can see, it may end up sometimes being a little longer. A quick note about today's episode. Alex and I discussed two topics. The first one we started out with chatting about was dragons. We dived deeply into the dragon mysteries because dragons are top of mind and very present in my heart right now. In fact, they're present in a lot of people's hearts right now. And that is not only because of the year of the wood dragon that we have entered into, but because the dragons are rising awake on the planet. And this is very significant in terms of what it means for these times we are living in. So because the dragons are so very present for us right now, and because I received a sacred invitation to do so, I have co-created a 3-month online journey and quest to support us in communing with the heart of dragon consciousness. This is an extraordinary journey into the depths of our own heart, while also inviting healing and sacred soul remembrance with our relations, the dragons. You can learn all about this program called Dragon Heart on my website at diamirarose.com/dragonheart. So for the first part of my conversation with Alexandria today, she and I dived very deeply into the realm of dragons. We talked about the energy of a dragon encounter. We talked about what it really feels like, how that experience of meeting and greeting a dragon force is quite different and unique from other spirit and nature spirit experiences. I share about what working with the dragons has felt like for me, and a lot of this perspective has come in hindsight 15 years later. So I'm really happy to share it with you today. And then we transition somewhat abruptly to another topic of conversation, all about working with essences. And in particular, Alexandria and I share a flower story that we both were connected to because we agreed together to work with an essence, the very same essence, which ended up leading us on a magical and very intense healing journey. So we share all about our experience, which we specifically chose to work with an essence together to be able to bring it into this space and share it with you all. This was an essence that neither one of us had really had a lot of experience with. And it ended up leading to another flower essence that neither of us had ever worked with. And it just became the most magical fairy tale story. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that if that transition seems a little abrupt, I went back and forth about whether I should split out the conversation into 2 episodes. But in the end, I decided, let's just let it be organic. This is how we talked about it. This is how it came forward in the space when Alex and I connected. So this is what is going to be shared with you today. And feel free to listen to the first part of the episode, which is about 30 minutes, where we dive deeply into the dragon mysteries. And then in a different sitting, you can nerd out with us with the essences. All right, that's all for me for now in this intro. I hope you enjoy this conversation between Alexandria and me, and may our stories and sharings open your heart and bless you.
The tail moved beneath the earth's surface. It was big and bold as it dreamed the dream of the earth. The sacred dream time was made for dragons, and dragons made for it. Dragons were both movers and dreamers. They lay sleeping now on the inner earth. Where they were exactly, no one knew. Once a proud race, flying and gliding through the skies, now they had retreated to the inner realms for safety and providence. They could no longer sustain on the surface. Too dense was the air and light. They could not abide there, no. But now a dragon stirred deep in the earth. Its long tail stretched miles and miles. The small subterranean gnomes bounced around its great length, helping the stones below. Somewhere in the dark subterranean depths grew a smallish plant. Its leaves were oval-shaped emeralds, and its thorns delicate yet sharp. From its sepal burst a bud, almost igniting into blossom. A tiny red bud.
The thing that I keep tuning into when you were reading this passage is trees and dragons and the roots and the tails. Because whenever I approach a tree, this started happening. This didn't always happen to me, but this started happening to me in 2018. When I would approach trees, and you know how sometimes the roots are coming out from above the ground and then they go down? They just started talking to me as if they were dragon tails. And then when you start to think of dragon tails and the roots of a tree, then you start to think of your own roots and where are your roots and where do you come from? And then it makes me start to think of the tree of life and our connection to our own family tree and our own inheritance and ancestry and legacy. And another thing when I think of dragons are emeralds. I don't know why that is, but I feel very connected to emeralds and green dragons. I just feel like that passage has so many codes in there.
When I wrote that, first of all, I actually really have no memory of writing that particular passage. And that's how it was with a lot of that book, which is my book, Through the Eyes of the Dragon, which is the second in the Four Speak series. It really impresses to me, that passage, is the connection between dragons and time and the cyclical nature of, well, first of all, the cyclical nature of nature and life itself, and also the cycles of time and how the dragons are connected to the Earth's cycle of time. And in particular, the precession of the equinoxes, and also the Earth as she goes through these sleeping, waking phases. I feel that all beings on the earth also go through these sleeping and waking phases with her. And the dragons seem to have this almost symbiotic relationship to time itself and time as it is journeyed and expressed by the planetary body Gaia Sophia. It's a very deep mystery teaching, but the way that I understood it as I was writing this whole book is I started to see and experience the dragons and their connection to each age, and how certain ages the dragons would be awake and in conscious communion and connection with humanity. And in other ages, the dragons would actually maintain more of a sleeping state where they would be receded into the dream time, as I call it, or the deep subconscious layers of Gaia. And it's during these phases, which we all know that phase very well because it's the one that we're all coming out of now, this great age of sleep, right? That has lasted for thousands of years. Humans go into a kind of forgetfulness and they forget who they are. They forget their connection to their self, their own soul, their magic. They forget that they are more than just this. I'm not even going to say human because we're not actually fully human unless we're also embracing our spirit, unless we're also embracing our magic. Like that's what makes us human, is the both. And so as we're waking up to this other part of us, to this, our magical roots, I feel like now the dragons have woken up. And I don't feel the dragons have woken up because we're waking up. I feel like Gaia is moving through one of her cycles, and as she moves and the wheel of time turns round again, I feel that this is the natural flow of what is now, which is that we are waking up and the dragons are rising from the deep subconscious subterranean inner realms and moving more into where we can experience them energetically in the waking realms, in the more conscious realms.
I just keep on hearing dragon story, and I just sent out an email this morning to my mailing list about a flower story, and I feel like I'm so familiar with flower stories. One, just because of all the flower stories I've been deeply steeped in, like hearing my clients' flower stories or my friends' flower stories. And oftentimes, one of the things that can happen with a flower story is that you forget that you're even working with flowers because the experience can feel so mythic and magical. And I feel like I have these hallmarks of what flower stories feel like. They feel serendipitous. It feels like time speeds up, like the frequency speeds up. And at the same time, you feel like you're moving through slow motion, kind of like Jedi energy, where you're just like, oh, I feel like I'm just defying time. And you're even maybe like jumping paradigms and moving into another paradigm where your old, outdated patterns are just kind of dissolving away. So I feel like there's like these hallmarks for flower stories. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what are some of the hallmarks when you encounter dragons? Like, what are some of the dragon stories? Like, I'm trying to think of my own encountering with dragons. It feels almost kind of like a drumbeat of the earth. It feels very anchored. It feels like a deep knowingness. And it can almost remind me of kind of like thunder or lightning, like you know it's there. There's also this like almost commanding of attention or presence, and that holding of space when you're matching the energy frequency. But I'm curious just from your perspective, because I know we all interact with spirit in different ways depending on what our own like spiritual signature is. I'm thinking of like when I first encountered this dragon by this pepper tree. How I first came about it is I remember seeing the roots and being like, wow, that root is so beautiful. And then I went and put my hand on the roots and I was like, why do I literally just had the image of touching a dragon's tail. And then I sat down on the root and I felt like I was sitting on a dragon's head. And I was like, why do I keep on not having all this image? And then I just heard dragon tree. And then I went home and I started having all these dreams about this dragon tree. And this dragon tree coming to me and then seeing the dragon underneath the ground and the roots. And then every time I would go, I felt like the dragon tree would give me messages. And I guess, you know, some people could say, oh, that's the spirit of the tree. But I also feel like for me, there's like these portals into trees with dragons. And so I kind of just went along with it and it became stronger and stronger. But I'm just wondering, it did not feel like a flower story at all. It felt like a dragon story. So I'm curious what some of your hallmark telltale signs are that you're weaving or interacting with dragons in like the 3D realms?
I will say first that in my experience, trees and dragons have a very ancient, mythic relationship to one another. I won't say more than that because I'm saving that for those who join me in Dragonheart. It is actually a deep mystery teaching beyond what the container of this beautiful podcast wants to hold in terms of an expression of transmission. But dragon stories are often for me there is a huge surge, or they are encounters of power. And we have a really complicated relationship with power, humans do, for obvious reasons, because, well, I don't know, maybe the last 13,000 years of history and, abusing, misusing power. Why so many of us people that are really wanting to do good on the work on the earth also might have issues of really sharing that, because somewhere deep down inside, some of us are actually afraid of, oh wow, what if I really allow my gifts to come forward? What happens then? Can I wield them with great integrity and love and respect and responsibility? Do I have that? And of course we have cellular memory where we didn't do that very well. And then there's the opportunity for self-forgiveness. And so when I began encountering dragons, all of this started coming up for me. All of my blood and soul history around power. And not only that, but the moment itself was truly a moment of power. And if anybody has ever had that, if you've had that moment of power, it is humbling. It will bring you to your knees, as it is truly awe-inspiring. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about power, is just pure, raw, unbridled power, which has no filter on it. So it's not good. It's not bad. It hasn't been wielded yet. So it's neutral, and yet it is raw and furious in its potential, meaning that it's awe-inspiring. And a lot of my encounters with dragons, it's not that the moment itself is always this bring me to my knees moment, but it catalyzes usually a bring me to my knees phase. And because dragons are no joke, I mean, that's why I personally do not look friendly upon. Alex is laughing. She knows what I'm going to talk about. Do not personally look friendly upon these flippant meditation circles where people are like, come get your dragon guide. Like, WTF. To me, it's like such a great way to dishonor, and not just dishonoring the dragon spirits and the lineage, but actually the people, the souls, the humans that come to these circles unsuspecting, have no idea what not just an encounter, but to enter into a dragon agreement. Like, and if you haven't been prepared for that, it could be very, very, very detrimental to one's soul path. And so I'm not just talking about like, let's everyone go and get their dragon guide flippantly, but a true encounter with dragon energy, with a dragon, is a meeting and greeting of Gaia's true raw power. And that, again, often catalyzes usually a profound initiatory journey. And so to me, those are some of the hallmarks of a dragon story and dragon encounter. I'm not going to talk about my first initial connections with dragons because I think I already shared that very first encounter with what I was calling my dream dragon in the first episode I did about dragons. But when I actually first worked with a dragon physically in land, this encounter with dragon, which also happened to be on top of the tour, I actually supported the liberation of a dragon that had been trapped, enslaved, and trapped in the earth. And that moment in time actually catalyzed this. Basically, it changed my entire life path. From prior to that, I was very clear that my path was about promoting fairy and human partnership, healing the relationship between fairy and human. That moment in time changed my entire path. It redirected. If I was going straight, now I'm going to the right or to the left. It completely changed. And that change actually took years to actually for it to settle and for me to even see that something had changed. And I fought it. I fought it for so long because what it meant, I was not at peace with at the beginning. But ultimately, the dragons lovingly and most beautifully essentially took over my work. They essentially became a huge part of the body of work that I bring forward. And now I can't even imagine having done this work without them, not just as partners and allies, but also because of what the dragons are and because of what the dragons have been guarding and because of where we are right now in the Earth's cycles and in her history. Some of the hallmarks of a dragon story.
Some of the hallmarks, just a few PowerPoint to go. This is so interesting. I'm literally having light bulb moments go off. Like hearing you talk is making me realize, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened to me. Like I always knew that encounter in 2018 with that dragon, which I still connect with, happened at this point in time where my whole life changed, but I never connected truly how this encounter was actually a power encounter until you said that. And I'm like, and it's so interesting when you have that reframe, how everything then clicks in. I was getting goosebumps when you were talking because I was just like, oh my gosh, it helps you to see the truth and to see authentically what's happening. And then that allows you to be even more in your power, you know? So thank you for another beautiful key code that we exchanged.
You're welcome. So, you know how we talk about dragon riders, and that's a whole conversation. We'll not go into the actual multi-leveled and multi-layered depth. Dragon riders and dragon workers, this is a beautiful and sacred and intimate, deep, esoteric, spiritual practice. But they were actually being very funny. And they were like, it gives dragon riding a whole new meaning because when you encounter us, we take you for a ride.
It's hysterical because I was literally thinking, when I encountered this dragon, then there were years of things I had to let die that were so painful. But ultimately let me come more into my power. And I'm still coming into it. I mean, it's still happening. It's still alchemizing and happening. And that was in 2018. We're in 2024.
Working with dragons is a power journey. No,
I'm now seeing that.
Working with dragons is an absolute power journey. And so to people who are having that soul call around working with dragons, to just be aware that you are stepping onto a path of power and a power journey. And that means that you're going to be called to reconcile everything that has to do with power. Every place where you are out of integrity with power, whether it's one way or the other, power tripping or powerless. It's the same issue, different side of the same coin. And so that is part of the dragon journey, is power, integrity, and cleaning up those places within ourselves where we're leaking power, where we're being out of integrity. As Alex just massively sprays herself with her most recent flower potion.
I was like that. This whole conversation needs me to douse myself
in the flower essences. Yeah. We both brought our sprays to this
my
session.
stomach, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm all the stuff that's happened over the past years. I'm like, it's okay. You're getting there, Alex. It's you're moving through it.
It's a journey, and then that's
it is a journey,
and then that's the balance. It's like, and I also want to say this about the dragons, because going back to the two-sided coin, it is a journey that requires integrity, looking at power, looking at issues of power, healing and resolving our relationship with power, and awakening true sacred power within self. And it is, with the dragons, it is a journey of love. It is a journey of self-love. Early on, I worked with issues of power, and still working with issues of power, right? We're always working with these places of unhealthy patterns within ourselves. But I started with the power work, and now it's this whole other level of coming into love, self-love, love for myself, and deep, true soul love. And so I want to also say that, because the dragons, they're like this 3-tiered dragon tail, which is power, wisdom, and love. And so in order to truly encounter and be gifted with dragon wisdom, we have to clear and resolve issues of power. And then we have to awaken the depth of love within our own soul, allowing ourselves to feel that through and through. And then ultimately is when the dragon wisdom is that pearl that comes forward as a result of the wonderful oyster with those sands and the muck inside that somehow over time magically creates a pearl. We don't know how he or she does it, but they do.
This beginning journey of power that happened for me, where it's really my power I felt was taken away from me. And it was a really scary situation with what happened with my son at his school. And I decided to then homeschool because I felt so powerless in what had happened at the school. And so I felt like I had no other option. And so then in all of that, I have realized it was such a blessing and such a gift what happened at his school, even though it was so intense. I feel so grateful what happened because it led me to me actually being able to step into my power and be able to hold a container for my children in a different way. And then I ultimately found out my son was dyslexic like me, which then allowed us to just really be in a space that we can learn at our own pace and focus on our strengths and be in the heart of our family, which has now led me to a place where I'm so focused on the illuminated heart. And that's really come through with my work over the past couple of years. And the beauty of the heart and the illuminated heart. And I even tell my kids, like, we'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, let's remember, why do we homeschool? And my dad will be like, to be in the heart of our family. And that's one of our tenets of why we do that, is so that we can be in the heart of our family. I'm now coming into this space where it's really all about, how do we step into our heart? Because I feel like when we're in the heart, we come into our own essence, but also our own discernment. And within that, then we have our own truth. And what is our truth? So that we can see more clearly what it is that we need for ourselves. But, all of that led to me then opening my own business. And it was kind of like this whole shoot off of power that has now led into the heart. And I'm now basking in the heart and, simmering in the heart. And I feel like every day I'm thinking about the heart. And what's so interesting is that my children will go and find heart-shaped leaves on walks and they'll bring them to me. So it's just like I'm emulating this heart that they're picking up, like the psychic vibes on it.
So you said that catalyzed this journey of power for you, that whole essentially dragon encounter, potentially. And then what did you end up doing? But you called the homeschool Dragon School.
I totally did. I called it Dragon Studies or Dragon School. And we would even go visit the dragon tree. And that would be part of our dragon studies, to get out to go for a walk and go climb trees and say hi to the dragon tree and decorate the dragon tree with flowers. It was really interesting how that came through. I even got a dragon stamp. So when they would finish their work, I would stamp all their work with dragon, like a green dragon stamp.
I was blessed with one of your green dragon stamps on a lovely card you sent me.
You were.
I loved the dragon stamp. It actually hung up on my corkboard in my apothecary for months. I actually want to back up. Alex used the phrase flower story, and she'll often use flowers for short, but what she's talking about is flower essences. So working with flower essences, which also could comprise tree essences and gemstone essences, environmental essences, any number of nature frequencies and in essence form. Not
elemental essences.
Elemental essences.
But they are hard to procure these days.
Yes,
you must be in a container with Diamir.
If you do a container with, right, exactly. My one-on-one clients, which I'm actually not taking one-on-one clients at this point, but also in the group containers and sacred quests that I lead, in particular, Dragon Heart that's coming up. Heart definitely has magical essences, dragon and fae essences woven into the program. So Alex and I have a very cool co-flower story, and it all began, I mean, where does it really begin ever? We have to trace back so far, but clearly Rowan wants to be named. She's like, if you guys do not mention me, we're going to have words afterwards. And she is a little fierce. She can be a little fierce. So what happened is Alex had the brilliant idea for our podcast that we should maybe choose an essence that she and I would work with for a period of time together. And then we could come on and talk about our experience with it and how it journeyed with us and see if that could be a fun episode. So that was the intention. And so we talked about what plant we wanted to do. We wanted to work with somebody who we had not worked with before or had worked with very little. And Rowan Tree came forward, and we both happened to have Rowan Tree essence. So we both began working with Rowan Tree essence. And for those flower essence nerds out there, first we worked with Rowan at a stock level, and we took it just right out of the stock bottle. Then we made a dosage bottle, and we worked with Rowan for a number of days in dosage form, at least almost a week, I think. And then we ended up adding Rowan to a formula, and we continued working with her. So according to the description that we had access to, it made very small mention of Rowan's magical qualities. And Rowan, for anybody who knows, especially in connection with the Celtic lands, is a very, very magical tree. It was the tree of witches. In magical and folklore, it is highly protective. So it has all of these very magical associations, but that was mentioned in just a tiny little sentence. And the majority of the description was about how it would help you heal the past. Do you have the definition available that we could share it?
Rowan tree essence offers an opportunity to look at your past and feel the pain that you have experienced. With this understanding, you are able to take self-responsibility for your part in these situations. The finger that has been pointing outward gets turned inward, and you are able to harness self-responsibility. Rowan essence also ushers in an understanding of magic, power, and the wisdom of the cosmos. Your spell work and divination will be enhanced with Rowan essence.
Yes, thank you. So that is a description from Gaia's Wisdom, and that we both have Gaia's Wisdom Rowan tree essence. So what can we say? So we worked with Rowan, and that in and of itself it was very deep and intense. And I don't remember the specifics, but it also had magical threads throughout the whole experience. The whole time we were journeying with Rowan, we were being reflected our magic, our gifts. Oh my goodness. So I just had to mute because I had a coughing fit. And this is important because of what I'm going to get to, which I'm trying to get to. And she's like, get to me now. So when we were working with Rowan Tree, these magical themes started coming through. All kinds of synchronicities started happening, but they were all around reflecting to us our magic. And the magic that was trying to almost break through, sometimes violently, into our world of like knocking at the door of our energy field, like knock, knock, knock. Excuse me. Oh, you thought you were open to magic? Oh, let me show you this place where you're still closed to your magic, your soul magic, your ancestral magic. Oh, no, you're closed over here. You've closed this door. Yeah, no, not so much. Knock, 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 knock. Knocking at different places all over that we thought we were open to magic. I'll speak for myself. I thought I was open to magic, and apparently I still had closures within my field, closures from old soul stuff, old past stuff that wanted to be healed. And Rowan was reflecting this to me. So in this whole experience, what ended up happening is Foxglove started to knock on our door. And this started to happen to both of us. For me, it was showing up in emails. I had a dream about Foxglove. She was showing up fast and furious. And I began to wonder and inquire, I wonder if Foxglove is a complementary companion plant. They don't grow together that I'm aware of, Rowan and Foxglove. However, magically, plants also coexist in the other world. There are plants and beings that coexist in the other world that are part of the same crew, if you will. And I just started to have this feeling like, is Rowan in some sort of deep relationship with Foxglove, and they're wanting to tag team us? But that became this whole journey, because then we had to find Foxglove because she doesn't grow until late March, early April. I have so many Foxgloves in my yard. I cannot tell you. I keep planting more and more and more every year. I'm obsessed with Foxglove. Curtis is a little frightened. He jokes around that I'm keeping him on his toes because, as most of us know, Foxglove is actually a poisonous plant. It's every part of the plant is poisonous: flower, root, leaf, everything. And so whenever I plant poisonous plants, Curtis makes this big, he's so dramatic. Like, oh, what are you trying to tell me? So anyways, it's this big joke between us. Obviously, it's all done in deep love. In fact, Foxglove is a heart medicine. Like, they do harvest digitalis, right? Foxglove for heart pharmaceuticals, right? So we'll get into her medicine in a moment. But basically we were like, how are we going to get Foxglove? Because I couldn't collect her here because she hadn't yet grown. And Alex did not have a Foxglove growing around her. And so therefore you would think that many apothecaries would carry Foxglove essence, but we couldn't find her anywhere.
I remember us decide. It was actually your idea to decide to work with Rowan, which I was like, oh, fun. I've always wanted to work with Rowan. I've had it maybe in a formula here and there. Little did I know that Rowan would leave me on another death journey. I was at the time in my progressed moon of Scorpio at the 29th degree that Diamira so lovingly reminded me as I was in a puddle of tears on the ground one day, woeing away and letting all of the heart feels of hurt from the pain leave my body.
There was a lot of woe.
There was a lot of woe. Remember Diamira calling me and she's like, sisters are not meant to woe alone. I'm here for you to woe. I think I just sobbed for like an hour on the phone. And then I was like, wow, I feel a lot better now. Thanks, Diamira, for holding all that space and letting me sob all over the phone. But it was just more of just, one, I love to experiment with flower essences. And so I often will experiment with flower essences, and I mainly experiment on myself with flower essences. And so I was in the depths of a woeing with Rowan. And I had the brilliant idea that I should add into this formula blue lotus, which accelerates things. And as we all know, blue lotus is a watery plant. And it's often used as an accelerator in Lotus Ways formulas. And so I had this brilliant idea. Oh, I should add blue lotus to this formula because then it'll just help to like relieve this faster. And that's when I then ended up in a puddle of tears. And then I realized after I was moving through it, oh, I should really just pause that formula and let everything just unfold as it should be. And what was happening with Rowan is Rowan was doing all of this clearing to come into this elevated, magical space of the heart. And it was so interesting how Rowan was reflecting gifts to me, but then clearing this debris so I could actually firmly stand in the power of my magic. And again, I kept on telling Diamira, I'm like, do you think this tree is related to dragons? It's like, I feel like I'm riding a dragon right now. I feel like I'm literally holding on because it felt so power driven. And then as I was working with Rowan, and both Diamira and I we were laughing and somewhat joking because we're like, oh, we've both done so much shadow work and death work and rebirth work. Oh, there was still more to be done. When you're in the progressed moon of Scorpio in the 29th degree, if anyone understands what that means, Diamira helped me understand. Don't worry, everyone. I'm officially now in my progressed moon of Sagittarius. It happened yesterday. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. But what started to happen is we started to both encounter Foxglove. I remember I was reading a story to my kids and Foxglove was in the story. I remember we went to get out a coloring sheet and there was foxgloves to color. I was like, this is so weird. I got an email with foxgloves. And I went to the nursery and there were foxglove seeds. And I don't grow foxgloves just because I have kids and my kids like to eat every flower in the world. Like everything in our backyard is edible so that I don't have to constantly being like, don't touch that flower. So I don't grow foxgloves. And so then we started realizing, maybe we should come into working with foxgloves. And that was a whole journey trying to find foxglove. I'll let Diamira tell the story of how we came to find foxglove because she's actually the one that sniffed it out because she's like a brilliant psychic detective. She found it. And the thing is that once it came, I was terrified to work with foxglove because she is a poisonous plant and she's all about the heart. And after Rowan, I was like, how much more can I take? But then I think I was pushed into there was something that just pushed me and I was like, okay, fine, I'll jump in. And I jumped in and it was like Rowan did all this clearing and Foxglove just created all of this illumination in my heart. I can feel that she's going to be journeying with me for such a long time. So now we're both working with Foxglove and she's been beautiful.
I've actually been working with Foxglove for almost 3 weeks now. And I was working with her at the stock level. And then recently I was feeling very pulled from many different angles, just in my spirit work, as well as I had 3 or more formulas I was working with, and it was out of control. It's not unusual to have two formulas one is working with, like a main formula and then a complement that you work with in particular instances. But to have three was just over the top. And technically I had four. I really didn't want to say that, but the truth is I had four. So when I first started working with her, the energy I felt from her was a straight heart energy. But it was interesting as I'm reflecting now, I almost feel like there's something about her medicine in terms of bringing it all into center. And the whole time she was wanting to bring me into center, and she was the sideshow that I was working with, but instead she was wanting to be center, but also wanting to bring me into center, because remember, I'm working with all these things and I kept saying to myself, I need to simplify, I need to simplify. Meanwhile, Foxglove is waving her little pink hat at me and I'm like, I need to simplify. And it's like the boat that comes and you're like, no, I'm looking for the miracle. No boat, go away. And that was Foxglove. She kept waving her pink hat like, hello, I'm helping you. And I'm like, I need to simplify. Where is my help? So this is funny. This is part of her medicine. She helps you simplify by coming into the heart. And so she is an extraordinary heart medicine. Both Alex and I felt these golden, luminous, an enveloping of golden and pink, luminous.
It feels like an orb, almost like you would think of like a fairy godmother or something. It just feels so etheric and otherworldly. We both had almost the exact same description of her.
Yeah, as we were working with her energetically. And so when I finally made the commitment to work with her full on, so I still have my main formula, and then I added her, I did away with all my other extraneous essences I was working with, and then I added her to my golden seal. So golden seal and foxglove. And golden seal is to help with any shift subconscious beliefs and patterns that come up when you're in that deep worry or you're spiraling into those negative thoughts and you need to begin to shift and reprogram those negative thought patterns. So that's golden seal. And then foxglove is just this big luminous golden heart. And so I began working with her. And what's interesting, last week is when I developed this crazy allergic reaction. It started on Monday night. And then by Tuesday, I was coughing. And I could tell it wasn't a cold. I was having an allergic reaction to something. It was affecting my breathing and my air passageways. I was really nervous because I thought I was going to get a sinus infection. And then some point over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it started clearing. And then I had this headache that developed, but then this coughing. And again, I'm not sick. It's almost as if something catches in my throat, as if I've just swallowed dust all of a sudden and I just cough. And so with this expectoration that's happening, Alex also is experiencing the same symptom. And the conclusion is that foxglove is actually helping clear our heart passageway. And essences don't always, in fact, rarely do they have a physical correspondence. And everything is connected, right? The energetic is connected to the physical. So sometimes an energetic is so strong that we'll have a physical response to it. And so that's what's happening for me. I don't think foxglove caused me to get sick or anything like that. It's clearing my energy pathways and as a result, clearing my heart. And as a result, I'm coughing.
It was funny because before we went to record, we were both coughing. And I was like, are you coughing too? And she's like, oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it's foxglove. Because yesterday I'm like, what is happening? This cough is coming forward for me and I'm not sick, but it feels like an energetic release. And then all of a sudden it just hit me. Like I heard foxglove go, it's the high heart, expelling out any of the toxicity and getting it out so that the voice can speak from the heart. One of my favorite things to do with flowers and flower essences, I actually learned this from April McMurtry, our friend with The Moon is My Calendar, is she does these beautiful botanical drawings. And I saw her doing these and I was like, I wish I could draw flowers. I'm a horrible artist. And she's like, well, how are you trying to draw them? Because she has an art background. And I was like, well, I just sit out in the garden. Ever since I was apprenticing way back when in the herbal realms, you practice attuning by drawing flowers. I'm like, I'm so bad at it. And she's like, are you trying to draw them like 3D in person? I'm like, yeah, of course. She's like, that's really hard to do. She's like, you take a picture of it, you draw it from 2D. I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And so now I can draw flowers. So I was drawing Foxglove yesterday in my new moon calendar journal. I was like getting ready for the next new moon and I was drawing on the mandala, drawing Foxglove. And I was just looking at her spots. She has these dark kind of brown spots that look like toxicity on the inside of her almost throat. And then they're surrounded by white or a luminescent, like off-white. It looked like this light coming to envelop the toxicity and then draw it in up to the throat or the heart of the flower to then alchemize it. And so then when we were both coughing this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, this is totally Foxglove. And not everyone has actual physical reactions to flower essences. And I think it's important to remember that flower essences are high intelligence. Whatever is meant to happen or your body is ready to receive, that is going to happen. Foxglove knew I was in need of heart illumination after Rowan. And Rowan and Foxglove were playing together, ending this Scorpio progressed moon. There's this energy that wants to kind of brush off a little bit. And to me, that's what Foxglove is doing, clearing out some of this. And also, when we just think of the lungs, we think of grief and the residual stuff that can sit there in the lungs and in the high heart. But yeah, I think that Foxglove is allowing this beautiful clearing, but also, I'm in love with her. I thought I'd be terrified to work with her. I'm in love with her. She feels to me like an illuminated heart retrieval. I feel like my heart is coming back into its own soul or something. Like it feels like it's completely surrounded by its own essence.
That is amazing. I did not think about the spots at all. Oh my God. Those are absolutely a reflection of that toxicity that you're talking about. And I have fallen in love with this plant spirit. And so, by the way, just before anybody freaks out and sends me some email, we are not working with Foxglove physically. This is not the physical tincture of Foxglove. This is a plant spirit. So there's absolutely no physical plant constituent left or actually in the essence at all. It is pure plant spirit, pure energy medicine. So there's absolutely no possibility of us having any kind of reaction from ingesting a poisonous plant. That's not what we're doing. We're not even ingesting it in microdoses. We're literally working with the plant spirits. I just want to make that exceedingly clear.
I would say that almost anyone that collects poisonous plants is collecting it in a uncut or no pick method where they don't lay the flowers into the water. They lay the bowl close to the plant, and I feel like almost anyone who's probably working with poisonous flower essences has a shamanic background, and then they're having the spirit of the plant come in to code the water, not any of the actual physical parts of the water.
Yeah, so I am loving her, and for me, I feel that it has totally been helping me come into even deeper alignment with the sacred etheric heart of dragon, which is been part of my journey of truly moving into this space of communion with this eternal force, which is the heart of dragon, and what I'm doing for this phase of my life, but also in preparation for this sacred quest dragon heart that I'm about to kick off here in a couple weeks. And so that for me, it's been, again, we think that we're in communion. There is always an opportunity to deepen. There's always deeper layers. And it's like, how deep do you want to go? How tall is the sky? How vast and deep is the ocean? I mean, sure, you can go down 20 feet and be like, I'm good here. And maybe you're good there for the rest of your life, but there's more. They're just invitations, and there always are deepenings. And say that in terms of my work with dragon, as I step forward to work with, basically bring this body of work to the world, to others, I feel like there's this whole level of deepening within me. You know, we never think we can go deeper until here we are. And I'm deepening further. And I feel that Foxglove has come in as this extraordinary ally of like, let me clear the pathways, any places that can be cleared so there you can truly come into this, the purest heart communion. So I'm working with being in communion with the heart of dragon at both soul level, spirit level, energetic level, but then also physically. I'm actually physically working on being in communion with the heart of dragon. And so at all these levels, there were still places within me that I was not allowing, that I was hiding from my own self. That's how Foxglove has been journeying me very deeply. And I'm obviously having coughing fits as a result. And I will share that the Foxglove that we are working with is from Plant Consciousness Apothecary. And this is an apothecary that is produced by a woman out of the British Isles. Her name is Emma Fitchett. And the description of Foxglove on her website. So these are what, it's indicated for. Toxic energy field, unresolved heart wounding, polarized perspective on life, erratic mind, lack of inspiration or motivation, and the evil eye. And so just to pause there, I will say that the polarized perspective on life is really fascinating also in the context of dragon work, because that's a huge component of dragon work, is harmonizing the polarities within self. And then it says that it's supportive of shamanic journeys, shadow integration, heart chakra opening, and meditation. But the description itself says, the fierce beauty of the spirit of Foxglove offers a powerful teacher of the heart and what we still carry within it towards others. Sometimes we need the more challenging lessons if we are to move into unconditional love, and this essence was made during the exact alignment of Chiron conjunct Mars and square Neptune, a powerful force for challenging illusions, particularly the ones we tell ourselves. Foxglove helps clear these blockages, which allows our eternal spirit to flow through us, giving access to a more expanded and non-dual perspective. As a guardian of the gateway into the other world, this visionary essence can guide you into the realm of the Fae or the elves, depending on your intention and karma. She is also the bridge between the other world and the Venusian sphere. And that's really the first time I've revisited the description since I've been working with Foxglove. And I am in awe right now because so much of what that just spoke to is exactly we've been journeying. That is how she has been showing up for us.
So this flower essence, Foxglove, feels so potently perfect for everything that I was going through. And it is almost one of those moments when you find and match. It reminds me so much of Harry Potter, where you go and get the wand, like the person picks out the wand for you. When there's a match that happens, and how much can be revealed and relieved when that frequency is matched, and even how so much of the overlay of someone's astrological chart of what's going on with them can also play into things. And sometimes when you are more aware of that, it can allow for this other layering. I want Diamira to talk about what happened with our shipments from Plant Consciousness with Emma, and how much Foxglove wanted to work with us.
The day after we placed our order, and remember, this company is in the UK. Alex and I are both in the States. I'm in the East Coast. She's on the West Coast. So we ordered our shipment, and the next day we get an email, not an individual email, but we're both on Plant Consciousness newsletter, and Emma says she's going out of town. She's going on retreat, and that all orders will be fulfilled when she comes back a month later. And so we're like, but I thought Foxglove wanted to work with us now. I guess it'll all just be in divine timing. We've already placed the order. It's fine. And so I completely forgot about the order. And one day I end up walking outside my door, and there on the front porch is a package, maybe a week and a half or so after I placed the order. So I saw it came from international shipping overseas. And I messaged Alex, Foxglove came, and she came at the most auspicious time because I was journeying something in particular. And she just arrived on my door like this fairy godmother. It was truly fairy godmother moment, where I open the door, and this is early in the morning. So there's the package just there. And I'm like, oh my God, Foxglove has just appeared. So fast forward, and about a week or so ago, we each get a shipping notice that's saying that our essences are being shipped. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, thanks for the shipping notice, but they're already here, right? But just in case, I sent an email and said, hey, just FYI, I already got these essences, Well, never heard anything. And then a few days later, lo and behold, a package arrives. And there again is my order duplicated, and it's Foxglove again. And the exact same thing happened to Alex. She got Foxglove again too. So at that point, I had been working with her a little bit, but I was messing around, not being serious. As I said, I was working with a bunch of different essences. So at this point, I was very clear that Foxglove was wanting me to take her seriously. And she was like, girl, I have sent myself to you twice, and it is time. And for Alex, I don't think had even started working with her. And so she was like, girl, I'm here. And then she's just been the most beautiful fairy godmother that one could ever hope for.
There's like this underlying layer about that story, because there is a flower story in that story. In that when we were deciding to buy these essences, we were messaging back and forth, like both doing research, and Diamira found Foxglove. And so we both decided to buy it. And so me being, like, okay, get things done, move along. It's getting late at night and we just want to buy this and purchase it and move forward. I didn't even look at her other essences. And so then what happened was when the orders got duplicated, Diamira got her second shipment of all those essences that she ordered. And so she's like, I feel so bad. Like, it's all these essences and it would cost so much to ship back. What are we going to do? Because we didn't pay for the second shipment that went through. They just came. And I was like, do you know what? I wanted to work with those essences too. Maybe you can send them to me and then I'll just pay Emma so that she's not out any money. But I feel like most of the flower stories have this underlining energy. I didn't really even see that was truly a flower story until like a couple of days back when I sent Emma the funds. We wanted to share generosity with someone who's creating plant spirit medicine. And also that was something that I was looking to receive. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing how these flower essences led by Foxglove were like, here, we're bringing you this whole apothecary. So that they actually, I think, are arriving today or tomorrow.
I feel like Foxglove is the Pied Piper right now. Playing her flute for all the essence
like
rats to come. Pied Piper. And in this vein, again, I was talking about Cinderella and the fairy godmother, and now I'm talking about the Pied Piper. And there's also something about Foxglove I feel connected to very deep mythic fairy tale heart, the imaginative heart, and the deep mythic living fairy tale that, of course, as we know, the true fairy tales were not all Walt Disney. They also had shadow and light. And so the beauty of Foxglove, it feels very like Black Forest of, Germany, those ancient lands where fairy tale lives as a living story, and then how those stories are singing to us. It's almost like Foxglove is truly the Pied Piper of the mythic story that is coming forward from Gaia. That's what's coming to me right now.
I love that part where you said the living fairy tale. I was showing Mike, my husband, what flower I'm working with. And I was telling him all about Foxglove. And he's like, what does Foxglove look like? I'm like, you've seen it. And I showed him a picture and he's like, oh, they're like fairytale flowers. I was like, oh, that's so funny. Even someone who's standing back, who's not, I mean, he's very attuned, but he doesn't realize how attuned he is. I was like, oh, that's so interesting that he would even recognize that.
Fairytale flowers. Wow. And then the last piece that I want to point out is just look at how beautiful this has unfolded. It feels this coming full circle moment of Alex and I had a plan. We had an idea. It started out with this beautiful, inspired, energetic of dream of Alex. Like, let's weave with a plant spirit and bring that forward, share that bounty and beauty of that experience with the listeners of Elemental Whispers and POE, as I've been lovingly calling it, which is my little fun hat tip to Edgar Allan Poe and specifically The Raven. But Pearls of Enchantment is for those of you who didn't know what I was just talking about. Alex had this beautiful idea, dream. And then together we came together, right? And we had a heart field. And in that heart field, we were like, let's work with Rowan. And then within that heart field, because again, we're being open and we're truly allowing magic to happen and doing the work and taking one step with one foot in front of the other, then what happens? Divine order totally takes over, and the plant spirit that is truly then meant to support and work with us both at this time weaves in, which it would have never been in either of our consciousness because we don't have it in our apothecary, right? We don't have Foxglove. And because she's not in a lot of apothecaries, it's not like a plant spirit that we see all the time, right? And because of the time of year, it's not like she's waving at me from the garden, which she waves a lot. I just feel this full picture weaving of going back to our first Pearls of Enchantment episode when we were talking about dreams and how we weave and co-weaving and how we did this co-weaving, but then how the plant spirits worked their way in there, how spirit worked its way in there. And by allowing and just trusting and letting go, it opened us up for this divine plan to unfold with this amazing new plant spirit ally, Foxglove, for her to come into our lives and come into our hearts and homes.
If we're all entering these spaces, what really starts to happen and what is possible? And do real life fairy tales exist? And in my heart, I think they do. And I think that one of the key way entrance is into that. There's many roads to Rome, right? But I think one of the key way entrances into that is through the heart. And one of the most accessible ways that I have found to do that is through flower essences.
I will continue to study at nature's feet for the rest of my life.
I will be there with you.
Thank you so much for gathering with me in this space. I am clearly on a mission to re-enchant the world through these mythic story weavings and sharing of these expansive and thought-provoking topics. So let me ask you, have you ever felt the swirling of remembrance in your heart, as if the mystery of life is whispering to you? If so, you might relish my book, Initiation, My Fairy Soul Awakening. It's an epic memoir that will take you on a mystical journey of remembrance, from the mountains and jungles of Peru to the sacred hills and wells of Avalon, to a mysterious island in northernmost Scotland. This book is an odyssey encoded with living myth, magic, and mystery. It's a tale of healing, synthesis, and becoming. But it's not just my story. It's a story that resonates with the human condition, our struggles, our triumphs, and for those of us who feel an inexplicable but very palpable connection to fairy. I invite you to immerse yourself in this transformative adventure, to explore the depths of your own soul as you journey along alongside me. So, my dear listeners, I encourage you to visit my website at diamirarose.com to find out more about the book, or hop over to wherever you purchase your books and get your copy today. Thank you so much for being a part of the Elemental Whispers community. Stay tuned for more enchanting stories and encoded transmissions. Until next time, may your path be filled with blessings and the wisdom of this world.